Welcome to The Insider, the official podcast for the City of Murfreesboro. I'm Mike Browning. Our topic today, the Materials Management Station or Transfer Station for Butler Drive. Our guest is Assistant City Manager Darren Gore, and he's an engineer who's been spearheading this project for several years now. How many years? 4.5 years?
Well, I've been working in solid waste for 4.5 years. The Waste Away project has probably been a year and a half.
And we'll discuss what Waste Away is, but I wanted to start with the whole idea of this materials management station and the alternative to the landfill. Where are you at in the process?
Right. So I don't want to go back too far in history here, but we did do a triple bottom line analysis that tried to identify all the alternatives available to the city after Middle Point closed. Two of the viable options the options that the council scored the highest was to just build a transfer station, which would transfer our garbage to another landfill, or go into a more innovative project with a Waste Away where we would transform the trash into a renewable, beneficially reusable project. Where the city is looking at funding using what we call our general fund dollars or our tax-based dollars is just the material management station or transfer station portion of the project. That is kind of the fallback position at this point. If anything doesn't work out with the recycling project or the Waste Away project, we still need a transfer station. That's because when Middle Point closes, we're going to have to start transferring our garbage somewhere else.
So the land's already been identified, it's already been approved for zoning.
Correct.
And annexation as well. You're doing some testing of the ground, geotesting, and also design work is underway.
December 1st of last year, we did get in essence, a design agreement. It was a $2.5 million fee, and it was split pretty much, I think, 50-50 between Griggs and Maloney, who is kind of a local engineer who is doing the geotechnical testing, which basically entails drilling down into the ground and determining if we have solid bedrock or if we've got voids on the site. And it's very essential to do your geotechnical testing to figure out how to design your foundation and the slab of the facility. We're looking at about a 50,000 square foot facility, so it's rather large, just over an acre. And then the other half of the design fee is really going towards our partner Waste Away, where they are the ones that are doing really the manufacturing design, which is a process using multiple really equipment that you would see in a materials recovery facility. Shredders, air knives, magnets, everything that kind of tries to pull valuable recyclables out of the trash, but then also convert the remaining trash into this biomass fuel.
So you may have answered part of my next question. What is a material management station?
Well, material management, so material management station, I'm using that term. This project really is made up of four, we'll call distinct components. And I like the term material management station better than transfer station because we really are managing material that we believe there's multiple ways to manage it. We can feed it to a Waste Away process or a manufacturing process, or we can transfer it to a truck and haul it to another landfill. But the material management portion, this is about a 20,000 square foot tipping floor where our trucks come in and dump the garbage on a concrete floor. It's enclosed, it's inside a building, and then there is handling equipment that move this garbage around. And the plan right now is to move it into a conveyor system that takes it to, we'll call it the second part of the process, which is I'm calling it the SE3 manufacturing. SE3 is kind of the trademarked term for the biomass fuel that Waste Away manufactures. So this trash goes in, and that's where you get into the shredders, into the air knives, into the magnets. You're taking out the useless material, which is, we'll call it the glass and inorganics. You're taking out the good material like metals, ferrous metal or aluminum, And then you're taking the rest of the product and you're creating really what SE3 is. It's a coal or wood equivalent. You can burn it like you would coal, or you can burn it like you would wood. That's the second component of the project. Don't want to get too far ahead. I could go into what's 3 and 4 right now if you want me to, or we can talk about.
Well, maybe what we
things.
should talk about is that Waste Away, the company that innovated or created this process, was actually doing the process in Warren County for
Yes,
some time.
That's right.
Right.
So they were a project that was facilitated by the Corps of Engineers. The Corps of Engineers they built the plant in Morrison and went through a significant level of testing and trying to kind of run this process through the ringer, if you will, to determine, does it have some weaknesses, where, what can we put in here that the product that wouldn't contaminate the final end product, and those kind of things. It won a lot of research and development awards from the Army, and actually was recommended for deployment by the Corps of Engineers in 2008. The obvious question people ask me then is, well, why is it 2023 and one of these haven't been, the only one that's been built is still in Morrison County, or in Morrison? The answer to that is it just wasn't competitive. It was not competitive with coal or wood as a drop-in fuel. It wasn't competitive with mulch, which that's what initially a lot of this material was basically used as a soil amendment to replace mulch.
So in other words, it was kind of an economic environmental issue that has changed since that time.
Absolutely. That's exactly what's happened. In 2019, Waste Away received a comfort letter that's called a comfort letter from the Environmental Protection Agency, the US EPA, that designated this material as non-hazardous secondary material, and it would be considered a coal or wood drop-in. It would not have to go through all of the federal air pollution mitigation requirements. If you had a boiler that used wood, or if you had a cement kiln that uses pet coke as a fuel, this material could go straight into it without having to go through all the air quality regulations that the US EPA didn't have to go through the Clean Air Act requirements.
So why did the city decide that the location that you've selected off Butler is the right location?
Well, even before we entered into Waste Away, I was looking at this particular interchange off of I-24 for just a transfer station, when we thought that our initial solution was just going to be to transfer the garbage to another landfill. And quite honestly, we picked this site or a site because the Joe B. Jackson interchange still had some available property, quite honestly, and some tracks that were large enough to not only handle a transfer station, but even a future, say, a public works facility like we have up off of Florence Road. So I had always been looking for this type site close to an interchange to keep trucks off of our local roads and primarily get trucks in and off the interchange or the interstate and back onto the interstate without being detrimental to our local traffic.
And when it comes to Waste Away, what is the current status of that agreement with that company, and what else has to be achieved, I guess, before that becomes reality?
We are in the middle of design. Our hope is that by somewhere in mid to late summer, that Griggs and Maloney would have the shell or the building foundation and the building package. Let's say it's going to probably be a pre-engineered metal building. And our site elements are ingress, egress, how kind of the internal flow of traffic would occur in the site, that was kind of a conventional civil engineering project, that we would have that bid out by mid to late summer. And then following that would be getting all the procurement of the Waste Away material and our process equipment in place, hopefully by the fall.
So construction might begin late this year,
Yeah.
early next year.
I'm thinking, I would love to see us breaking ground by, mid to late summer. So say August, September.
Some concerns have been raised, and we should probably allow you to address those, about odor and about traffic. Those are the biggest complaints, I think, that people raised at a public hearing.
Right. So the traffic, again, going back to the fact that we're at an interchange and trying to primarily use the interstate, we're estimating somewhere between 50 to 70 trucks per day. That's compared to between, say, 400 and 500 at Middle Point. So this facility is only going to be able to handle about 140,000 tons a year. That's 400 tons a day. A fully loaded semi-trailer can only handle 20 tons. So if you say ideally, if we were able to get 20 tons max loaded to a 400-ton facility per day, that's only 20 trucks. So I'm kind of hedging. We're going to have trucks. There's going to be our trucks coming in that are tipping trash in and so forth. So I'm saying between 50 and 70. With regards to smell, you really just have to go over to the Morrison facility and do a site visit. Garbage smells. I mean, there's, and as you're transporting garbage, I don't think our trucks smell that bad. Some people have told me I'm wrong there, so that's okay. But it's a very temporary, fleeting smell when you have a truck that's passing by. This facility is going to be enclosed. All the trash will be dumped into a concrete floor. And one thing that I've told people throughout my career, I've worked in the water and the sewer field, and water's not so much of an odor issue, but obviously sewer can be have a very strong odor. When you have something inside a contained structure, in this case a 50,000 square foot facility, there are multiple ways to mitigate and control odor if it becomes that. The first one is we're not going to plan on letting the garbage sit for very long on the tipping floor. As soon as it hits the floor, we're trying to get this into a approximately 30-minute process that creates an odorless, the SC3 is an odorless biomass fuel. The second thing is you can put negative pressure on a building, you can use biofilters, you can use odor control media to scrub gas out of the air. The city's going to have a very high degree of control in that regard because we want to be a good neighbor, and we're not going to let a chronic odor issue exist out off of Butler Drive. There's always a chance for an occasional intermittent one-off odor issue, but I guarantee you if there will not be any type of continuous chronic odor issue out there. We'll have measures in place to deal with that.
Back to the waste away question that we started earlier and we wanted to come back to. So the biogas process that would be a part of this is through what's called anaerobic digestion. Can you kind of, in terms that we all understand, explain that for us?
Well, yeah, it's really what happens at a landfill right now when you bury trash. There's organic material that breaks down and really it's microbiological. They start eating what the soluble organic material, and then as they eat that, they grow and they proliferate and they off gas. They create gases that in an anaerobic digester it's much more controlled. Again, you're inside of an engineered structure, and so you take that gas and you extract it, and then you take it through a purification process. So we're really just trying to capture the methane. And so biogas out of an anaerobic digester may be only 60% methane. Well, we need to get it to a 99.5% purity level. So you scrub out the other gases and you try to just refine and purify it to that high level of methane. And that's natural gas. That's what you can fuel vehicles off of it. You can push it into another gas pipeline. It's what we all use for our gas stoves and our water heaters in certain cases. That's what we use.
So when this process is completed, then it will be compressed into some kind of cylinders, I would assume, or some packaging process.
Right, or a truck.
And then it will have to be transported.
Correct. They call it a virtual pipeline, which is really what we would all call it a compressing it into a truck and hauling it across using the truck. The truck is basically your virtual pipeline.
So from the process of how you envision it from the city standpoint, this garbage will come to the facility and it will be in bags or however it is. It will be just plain garbage being dumped. And then it goes into the what's been termed the fluff or the SE3 manufacturing process. Distinguish for us the difference between the fluff that's created that could be put into a cement kiln and the process that goes into creating biogas.
Yeah, so you create the SE3, which is the biomass fuel, and you don't have to put that into an anaerobic reactor to generate gas.
You can use the garbage to do that.
Well, no, the garbage has to be converted. So the garbage comes in off of our side loader vehicles and other say roll-off containers that the county may be using this facility as well for their convenience centers. That garbage will go through the manufacturing process.
Okay.
It will have to be made into SE3 fuel. Now, when you create that biomass fuel, there's again two options. One is if you've got somebody that's willing to purchase that on a per ton basis and burn it off-site. A cement kiln uses coal and pet coke, right? To burn to create a very hot furnace type environment to generate what's called clinker. Clinker is a precursor to Portland cement. They could actually use the SE3 directly into their furnace and their cement kiln to burn it, to keep that temperature up to manufacture clinker. The unique thing, the cool thing is that for every ton of, say, the SE3 that they use that offsets that coal, they actually get a 1.7 ton greenhouse gas emission credit.
So would you say they're excited to get their hands on
Yeah, they're
this?
excited because they do. I've researched a little bit of the Portland cement industry. They have a roadmap to carbon neutrality by 2050. So cement kilns are one of the highest methane gas producers around, and so they're under some pressure to reduce their carbon footprint. And so this is a way for them to get some pretty good carbon credits, some greenhouse gas avoidance, and by using this material to fuel their manufacturing process and manufacturing clinker versus using conventional coal or pet coke. So they're excited about it from two. One, it's probably cheaper. We can maybe sell it to them cheaper than coal. And two, they get a pretty good carbon credit for it.
What are the expectations for the amount of garbage, first of all, that Murfreesboro produces, and then how much you'll need in order to make this sustainable?
The Waste-Away project, this facility, manufacturing facility, will be able to handle 140,000 tons per year. That I've said it earlier, about 400 tons per day. The city, primarily the residential, what the city picks up curbside with our solid waste fleet, we pick up close to 50,000 tons a year, just shy of 50,000 tons. We'll just round it up to 50. So we're taking just over a third, say, capacity of the plant just by what we generate. Then let's go big picture. What does Rutherford County generate in total? The whole county, and this is Murfreesboro, county convenience centers, Smyrna, Laverne, all the private haulers, all your retail, industry, food service establishments. They generate, say, somewhere in the whole county generates, say, 350,000 tons.
Which is a large number.
That's a large number, and we're not going to be able to take every bit of garbage that Rutherford County generates. We're only going to be taking just under half or less than half. So the viability of the project, it works if it's just Murfreesboro's trash at 50,000 tons a year and we're just using a third of the capacity of the plant. The more capacity you use of the plant up to its ultimate capacity of 140,000 tons per year, you just start to, the SE3 is cheaper. We make it, we manufacture it at a lesser cost because we're maximizing the capacity of the plant.
Which makes it even more attractive.
Which
to
makes
some
it even
people.
more attractive. So that means that it generates more gas, it generates more digestate, and if people are buying these, the revenue side starts to really take off as we optimize the plant production, and which just means it lowers the cost to the Murfreesboro resident.
What are the safety concerns? Are there safety concerns regarding creating this gas?
Yeah, that was one of the questions that the council had that they needed answered between approval of first reading and second reading on the rezoning of our property off of Butler Drive. So I did I'd say in-depth. I went to, Google and kind of did a internet research on any accidents or explosions or tanks bursting or really just any kind of incidents dealing with anaerobic digestion. And I really I think from 1997 through 2020, so about a 23-year period, I found there was 14 incidents.
And most of these are in Europe, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
that's where a lot of this is done.
Right. I think there are several. There's a I can't think of the acronym offhand, but it's kind of like Biogas Association of America or something to that effect that they publish. They estimate there's over 10,000 anaerobic digesters in Europe, and somewhere I think in the maybe the 2,100 to 2,500 anaerobic reactors in the U.S.
So it's been going on for a while.
Oh yeah, anaerobic digestion has been going on for decades, and I know there's a real. Well, I think California is about to mandate that all of its residents' food waste, and of course the food service establishments' food waste, is going to have to be segregated and actually put into anaerobic digesters. They're going to try to generate gas with the food waste as well, but they're going to actually have to physically separate it. They're not going to allow any more food waste into landfills.
Is it accurate to say that if there is a safety concern at all, most of it is contained to the site itself? In other words, if there were any
Yes.
concerns, it would be to the workers, not so
Right.
much to the neighborhood.
That's correct. Most of the accidents that occurred that I researched were really, you hate to say negligent, but it was worker just maybe not
Following
not
procedures.
following safety protocols, and it stayed confined. The folks that were injured it was confined to the proximity of the digester. There wasn't any collateral damage off-site.
Like any process that has something to do with heavy industry or some kind of environmental issue, there is a state agency that looks into this and regulates this, and it's your understanding that TDEC would probably have to provide a permit.
TDEC is going to have to provide the operating permit for us to build this facility. There are lots of biogas and anaerobic digestion safety standard manuals. There's the report I did, I think I cited 2 or 3 of those, and so as in all things industrial and all things manufacturing, safety is really the predominant concern. And so as we become more sophisticated from technology standpoint and from just understanding the manufacturing processes we deal with every day, safety is paramount. And so there's a lot of guidance on how to make these areas or these type of facilities safe.
Regardless of whether the city is able to move forward with waste away and this process, and it's looking like the city is moving forward with that, but of course you've got things, there's a lot of challenges
Right.
still and
There's some
hurdles.
there's linchpins that still have to be set.
Either way, the idea of having a transfer station or what we call a materials management station must be done, because if you're going to transfer the waste outside of the county to another landfill, which the nearest one is down in southern Tennessee, right?
Yeah, well, there's the one in Lewisburg, and then there's the one in Camden, Tennessee. So,
But that's where you're going to have to go
You're
with
gonna
it.
have
So
to
you
go
have
with
to have a transfer station in
Yes,
order.
yes.
You can't just take the trucks
No,
that pick up the
right.
garbage and drive down there. with
Right,
it.
you've got to take your curbside collecting trucks, we call them our side loaders that pick up the 96-gallon carts. Those have to go empty themselves so they can get back to picking up containers on the curbside, and then you load a semi-truck. And that semi-truck goes towards the nearest regional landfill that'll take our garbage.
And that's what needs to be understood from us in the public is that that process has to happen regardless. The
Right.
garbage is not going to disappear.
That's correct.
One important question I think that some people have asked about is, will there be recycling at the curb site? And I guess there's not a need for that.
No, the first part of the waste away process, you almost need to look at that as a material recovery facility. So it actually takes the beneficially reusable metals, and in some cases, if we ever want to get into plastic recycling, or that process extracts that from your garbage. So you don't. This is one of the more enticing things about this process is that the biogas the food waste doesn't have to be segregated because the bugs eat it in the digester. The metals don't have to be separated by the customer because the process can do that itself. The glass and the aggregate, the inorganic stuff gets segregated and it still has to get disposed of. But the process it eliminates the need for the customer to separate different materials. It takes care of that.
And that's part of the beauty of it, even from the customer standpoint, and understandably for a private company to be able to do that and to make some profit out of
Right.
it, you have to make it work, I guess,
Right.
for both sides,
Correct.
for both the
Right.
public and the private industry.
That's right. And I mean, it has to be economically viable for someone to come in and finance it. And that's one of the other questions I get a lot is, well, the city's taking a big risk in financing this project. Well, no, we're not really. We're financing the component that I talked about earlier, the material management station, that section of the project. So if this is a $65 million project, and say the MMS or the 20,000 square foot structure to do the material management is 15 million of the project. The other 50 million is basically we're looking at issuing revenue bonds that would have to be privately, bought. I mean, private investors would have to buy those revenue bonds, and they really would not be backed, or the city's general fund or tax base would not be a backstop to those revenue bonds. Those revenue bonds would have to base the revenue from the project, i.e. the renewable natural gas that's generated, or the biomass fuel that is the digestate that is used by a cement kiln, and plus the revenues of what we pay. We are going to have to pay a tipping fee. We're hoping to keep our tipping fee, maybe in the low 40s. I mentioned earlier the market rate's in the mid 70s. So if we will have to pay to have our garbage processed as a city, but we would be a customer to this facility. So you've got those three different revenue streams. Those revenues will pay back the revenue bonds and the bondholders. So we're trying to take the city's risk as far as investing in this technology. We're trying to take it off the city and put it back into the private investors.
If everything goes well, when do you think we'll see a material management station in operation?
Well, we're hoping somewhere by the first quarter, of 2025. So January, maybe January, February, March of 2025, somewhere in that range. We hope to have it up and running.
Well, Darren Gore, the Assistant City Manager, thanks for joining us
thank you
for this topic.
Thank you for having me.
We've been discussing and highlighting plans for an alternative to Middle Point Landfill through a materials management station or transfer station and a contract with Waste-Away for renewable fuels from trash. For more information on the City of Murfreesboro, visit murfreesborotn.gov. Insider is the official podcast for the City of Murfreesboro. I'm Mike Browning, and thanks again for joining us.